Hey everybody, my name is Paul Weston Jr., aka Boy Green. I'm the New York Jets digital reporter for Heavy.com. We're streaming live simultaneously in 3 different locations. The Heavy on Jets Facebook page to over 25,000 New York Jet fans. Happy Monday to you, happy holiday, happy New Year. We're also on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/BoyGreen25, and on the Twitter sphere at BoyGreen25 as well. And boys, we've got some news to talk about coming from Robert Saleh's press conference. We'll get to that in just a moment. We'll also sprinkle some other nuggets looking ahead to Week 18, New York Jets, Miami Dolphins. We now know those 2 teams will be playing at 1 o'clock on Sunday. It was TBD because it, of course, had an opportunity for one of the Saturday slots or 2 Saturday games coming up in Week 18, perhaps the Sunday Night Football slot. The Jets have not been on Sunday Night Football in 12 years. Unfortunately, they blew that and every other opportunity. They're going to just be thrown right in there on the 1 o'clock mix where most of the Jet games have been this year anyway. So, the Jets had their opportunity. Coulda, shoulda, woulda. Could have been a primetime game. Could have been this. Could have been this. Could have been that. But without further ado, let's get into the clip. Here is Robert Saleh moments ago, a little while ago, when he spoke to the media. Here is again Robert Saleh on New York Jets offensive coordinator Mike LaFleur. Here is his very powerful and strong message, but one that I don't think a lot of Jet fans are going to have. You'll hear question and answer. He was asked, do you still have full confidence in offensive coordinator Mike LaFleur? Here is, again, Robert Saleh on that. Let's throw it up on the big screen and roll the footage.
Robert, do you still have full confidence in LaFleur?
Yeah. I've been in LaFleur's shoes. I've told you guys a story in 2018, second year as a coordinator on defense, and it would have been very easy for Kyle to fire me. Very easy. Just say, you know what? We went 4-12. You're the scapegoat. Get the heck out of the building. But to his credit, he sat down. He went over the weeks following the season and committed to me, and the rest is history. So you got to have the discipline to be able to go back and make sure that you're telling the truth about what's happening in the building and not coming away with knee-jerk reactions that could derail what could be a pretty damn good football coach or a good player for that matter. And that's where Zach comes into play. Not to sit down and just make sure that we are doing everything we can and studying everything we can to make sure that we keep these young people who we've invested 2 years in, make sure that we're keeping them on the track of development and making sure that we're staying committed to the process of that we set out to commit to back 2 years ago.
So while Saleh didn't outright say it one way or the other on the future of Mike LaFleur, reading between the tea leaves, folks, Mike LaFleur ain't going nowhere. I mean, you just heard Robert Saleh right there. What is your confidence level in Mike LaFleur? Do you still have full confidence? He says yes. And then he tells a story about how he could have easily been fired in 2018. The Jets or 49ers rather in that moment said, no, we're going to bring Saleh back. The next year they go to the Super Bowl. And it was because of course, that 49ers defense. So if we're going to try to read and interpret the Saleh message right there, it sounds like Mike LaFleur is, of course, coming back. I will say that does not surprise me because of their familial relationship between Robert Saleh and Matt LaFleur being best friends, and then Mike LaFleur, him knowing him since childhood. It sure sounds like to me that Mike LaFleur is coming back to the New York Jets as their offensive coordinator. Now, to be honest, it just hasn't been good enough. And we've laid out a lot of excuses on why it hasn't been. Injuries this, injuries that. But at the end of the day, this is a results-oriented business. And Mike LaFleur has not delivered. Again, we go back to the scoring totals where the Jets have lost 5 in a row heading into this Miami Dolphins game where they would have had a chance to make the playoffs. They scored 22 against Minnesota, but didn't get a touchdown in that game. Okay, we're talking about 1 for 6 in the red zone. You get 12 points against Buffalo. Didn't happen. Detroit, you score only 17 points. Jaguars, you score 3. Seattle, you score 6. You haven't scored a touchdown in 2 weeks. You haven't scored a friggin' touchdown in 2 friggin' weeks. I mean, that's unacceptable. That's unbelievable. Also, when you consider that this is money time, that this is everything it has to be. So unfortunately, and maybe you can go into why did Saleh hire LaFleur in the first place when you knew that this connection would make it even harder to move on. Now it sounds like to me Saleh is going to give LaFleur every opportunity to fight his way out of this. based on that story he gave, because that's what Kyle Shanahan did to him. So it sounds like another year of LaFleur. And quite frankly, what changes are now going to be made? Because someone's head has to roll after this epic collapse. The Jets were at 6-3. They had a path to the playoffs. They had a chance. They need to do something. Now, there are some whispers. Albert Breer released this earlier today that one name to keep an eye out for that could potentially be on the move for the New York Jets is their offensive line coach, John Benton. This is from Albert Breer of Sports Illustrated. He said, keep an eye out for John Benton. He is a name to watch in the, quote, assistant coach carousel. Here's more from Albert Breer on that. He simply said, quote, I'm interested to see whether the setup in Green Bay, San Francisco, and Miami, where there is a play caller mixed with a guy with an offensive line background, could be interesting. And again, that name is John Benton, potentially to look at here. Now, is that enough of just a guy for a random scapegoat? Like, it's almost like, you know, in theory, Robert Saleh could kind of put his hands over his face and throw a dart, and just it happens to land on John Benton, and maybe he's the guy. Rob Calabrese, I think what you really need, for me, what I see based on this scenario is you need experience. You need a guy to come in and be that guy. Now, of course, that guy was supposed to be Greg Napper, the guy who had worked with Michael Vick and Peyton Manning and Steve Young and all these unbelievable minds in the game. Mike LaFleur had never called plays until he was hired by the New York Jets. Rob Calabrese has like minimal experience at the NFL level. And before that, it was just random college stuff. And he's an incredibly young guy. I think it's time, to bring in, stop with all the kid stuff and bring in a veteran, bring in somebody that knows what the heck they're doing. I've heard the yelling from Jet fans. Frank Reich, sure, he would be attractive. I've heard people say Sean Payton. And obviously that'd be a much higher level than just some of the assistant squabbling and switching and all that kind of stuff that we're talking about. But something needs to change. This offense has not been good enough. And again, we make all these excuses about injuries and this or that. But at the end of the day, what the offensive coordinator's job is at the bare bones level is to make the best out of what you have. And when you have Mike White, when you have Zach Wilson, Joe Flacco, Chris Streveler even, you need to build a package around the quarterback you have to be able to deliver and to be able to execute. And they have been unable to do that with a wide range of quarterbacks. And to just throw up your hand and say, well, there was injuries. Well, that's just not good enough. Well, if they wouldn't have lost Breece Hall or Elijah Vera Tucker, well, they did lose Breece Hall and Elijah Vera Tucker. So to me, there's got to be changes. There's got to be an investment of a guy that has been there, done that, whether it's Frank Reich or some other offensive mind. You need to bring somebody in here because it is an absolute failure by this Jets coaching staff that they were not able to develop Zach Wilson properly because all the other pieces were right. You got offensive linemen in, you got weapons in, you got this in, you got that in. Like, the coaching staff is supposed to get the most out of its players. Now, I'm not just pretending to be some level of a Zach Wilson truther here. I'm a big fan of Zach Wilson, but it's not even just Zach Wilson. But just to use that as the example, a guy that's never called plays before was tasked with developing a quarterback that was the number 2 overall pick in the draft, and he failed in doing that. Plain and simple, blunt. And sure, we've seen some pops from veterans like Josh Johnson, Joe Flacco, and Mike White. But when it mattered most this season, in the most critical moments, they flopped. They failed. They did not deliver when it mattered most. So again, from Robert Saleh, it's not going to make a lot of people happy, but it sure sounds like he's going to be back. Rico on Facebook. He's a bad play caller. Get rid of him. Guys, feel free to jump in wherever you're watching. Again, make sure you like the video. Hit subscribe down below on YouTube for more juicy New York Jets content. And this is a show by the people for the people. So feel free to get involved wherever you're watching. Also, the YouTube Super Chat option is also available if you'd like to tip the show. Again, it's 2023, baby. We got a lot of fun stuff coming. Let's go to this one on Facebook. Jesse Shutter. Saleh said nothing to tell us fans. We're going to do what we got to do to get better. Awful. Tells me when we're going with him. Tells me where we're going with him, rather. They're from Jesse. Yeah, again, I've seen some signs from Saleh, but there's a lot of game management issues that we saw at the end of the stretch, and people question the emotion on the sideline. Again, whether he shows emotion or does not show emotion, it's a result-oriented business, so that's the thing that ultimately matters. But his friendly relationship with Mike LaFleur could ultimately be his downfall, because that was the big coup with the Saleh hire. Like Saleh, okay, he's kind of this emotional rah-rah guy, but he's bringing in Mike LaFleur. He's bringing in an offensive plan, and that's going to be great. Well, the offensive plan hasn't worked. So that was a big reason that the hire was so sexy and now no longer so sexy. Let's go to Ed here on Facebook. All we do is make scapegoats of players. No, Mims, Becton, Moore, Zach. Yeah, there's been a lot of scapegoats from a player perspective of guys that have failed to deliver. Denzel Mims, Mekhi Becton, Elijah Moore, Zach Wilson, Corey Davis, Carl Lawson. I mean, there's been a lot of guys, but I think also to a sense that there is, you could say scapegoats, you could also say players that did not live up and perform. There's going to be a lot of big-time changes this offseason for the Jets. Aaron on YouTube. I don't have any faith in him at all. It seems like when he has something working, he immediately goes away from him. Ask Ty Johnson. Yeah, Ty Johnson was running like a man possessed during the Seahawks game. It surprised me. I'm like, okay, here we go. And, the only thing that it seemed like they were backing at least initially on was riding the hot hand in the backfield. They showed a camera shot of Michael Carter and Bam sitting on the sideline. I'm like, okay, you can sit on the sideline. So Ty Johnson keeps running like this. So they got away from the running game. I will say from a defensive perspective, after the first 3 drives, Seahawks had 17 points. It was 17-3. I mean, so the defense, for as much as they, are heralded, and for good reason, I mean, 17 points out of the first 3 drives, I mean, just simply not good enough. Now, obviously they were aided with that Mike White pick, but that's another factor as well, for sure. Jesse, knee jerk. No, it's a good reaction. We know what we've seen the last 6 weeks. Yeah, Saleh using knee jerk, like, hey, man, we can't just give up after 2 years. I think there's a fine line. If I would have been in that media room, the thing I would have said to Saleh is simply this, following that question. Coach, what's the fine line between, of course, defending your guys and not wanting to give up on people too soon, and then just ripping off the Band-Aid? I mean, that's my big question coming off, is because I don't know what the answer is. Maybe Mike LaFleur is going to be a magician next year. I don't know. But the fact of the matter is, I think there is a very, very fine line in the middle where on one side, it's cool to defend your guys. It's cool to ride that line. But on the other side, when is enough enough? You've seen enough. We say that with quarterbacks after you see insert amount of starts. You're like, okay, we know what this guy is. Same thing for coaches. Like, there has to be a line. And what is that? Just to throw up your hands, well, we invested 2 years. That's like I'm in a bad relationship, but I've just been in it for so long. I'm like, well, I can't give up now, even though it's terrible. I mean, I'm already 2 years in. Like, at a certain point, there's a sunken cost. Like, the number 2 overall pick. If the Jets say, wow, Zach Wilson stinks, but they're like, well, we did invest a number 2 overall pick. No, you have to, at a certain point, you have to just make decisions. You have to take a step back and say, you know what, this, or that. Not just, well, investment of time is not a reason to keep somebody around even longer. Like, actual production is a reason to keep someone around, or lack of production in there is. So, yeah, that to me can ruffle a lot of feathers for sure. Let's go to Jimmy Jets. Well, the 49ers had an actual head coach who knew what he was doing. Saleh is still raw. He is still unproven, just completing near his second year. David on Facebook, should be fired. Ooh, I like that. Maybe get that on a t-shirt. There you go. Jesse, ridiculous. Enough. Bye, Saleh, as far as I'm concerned. Chrono Kenny, Rob Calabrese at the very least needs to go. Again, someone needs to go. There's no question. There's got to be a head roll for sure. Greg Johnson, call Peyton. Yeah, again, we talked a little bit about this yesterday on the post-game show, but we can, of course, have this conversation. Sean Payton, it sounds like from all the NFL insiders, will take at a minimum of a first-round pick, plus you have to pay him an unbelievable blank check amount of money. And then he, of course, wants to come because part of the deal is him signing a long-term deal. And if he doesn't believe in you or want to go to you, then the deal will never come to fruition anyway. So there's going to be a lot of teams interested. Sean Payton is a proven guy, a Super Bowl winner, one of the best offensive play callers of all time. So, and here's the other thing. If you're Woody Johnson and you say to yourself, again, we're just all spitballing here now. We're in the old brainstorm room. But Greg, since you brought it up, if we're in the room and someone goes, hey, Sean Payton? And Woody's like, yeah, booyah, let's do it. And you go, so there's a lot of layers. Like, you have to get the Saints to agree to a trade. So you have to come up with some level of compensation, number one. Number two, then you got to talk to Sean Payton and say, all right, well, so what's it going to take? 5-year deal for $50 million, 5-year John Gruden deal, 10 years, $100 million, whatever. We're just spitballing here. And then after all that's agreed on, then we have to figure out whether or not the Jets will quote unquote win the sweepstakes. If you pick up the bat, a lot of those rumors are going to start leaking out that you're aggressively chasing Sean Payton. And what do you think Saleh's going to think of that? Because if you swing at Sean Payton and miss, and you say, just kidding, I'm going to roll with Saleh. He's like, what the hell? You were going to give up on me? And then it gets all awkward and you could potentially burn down the whole house. So, again, this is something you have to, if you're going to do it, if you're going to pick up the bat, you can't miss. You have to get it. So I would be surprised, quite frankly, if the Jets decided to go in that direction. I think the Broncos are going to be very aggressive and do everything they can. We'll see if Sean McVay comes back to the Rams. That would be a sexy spot, I imagine. So there's a lot there. There's a lot there. Chrono Kenny. Calabrese should have told them White does not look healthy and we need a heavy dose of Strevler. Calabrese didn't develop Wilson. Calabrese has no experience in developing quarterbacks. Get him out of here. Yeah, that's a big thing for me. So, okay, obviously Mike White was hurt. And by the way, the latest from Saleh is Mike White has only quote-unquote general soreness. He's expected to play at quarterback on Sunday against Miami Dolphins from everything we've heard today. Also, Tua is not in the Dolphins' plans for Sunday, which means it will either be Teddy Bridgewater, who just broke his finger, or Skylar Thompson. So, by the way, quick detour on this conversation. Whoop! The Jets nearly had an opportunity where it was essentially win and you're in against Skylar Thompson and the Miami Dolphins? Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Jets, how did you blow this? Again, of course, you need New England to lose Buffalo, but, that's happening. So, come on, man. The playoffs are right there. Bummer. Anywho, back to the point. So, again, Jets, Dolphins, 1 o'clock. Mike White is the guy right now. It looks like the only thing he's doing with his general rib soreness, and then it will probably be Skylar Thompson on Sunday against the Dolphins. So all that just information for you guys for Week 18 from the Saleh press earlier. But to your point, Chrono Kenny, the Jets, there's no way Mike White looked great all week. He's throwing the ball around. He looks fantastic, unaffected by the ribs. And then Sunday, randomly, it just doesn't work. There had to have been some signs during the week. And if that was the case, then you had to build exactly what you're saying, Chrono. You have to build the running game up. You have to have Strevler packages. You have to have a plan, man. Mike White could barely hit the broadside of a barn yesterday. And that couldn't have come as a surprise. Wow, he is really off today. Then you got to do something like pivot. Holy crap, our season's on line. If we lose, they did, spoiler alert, then the season's over. Joe Flacco, Krista, I don't care what. You have to do something. And they did nothing. Brutal. So, yeah, if Calabrese's heads roll, I don't mind. And by the way, he could have left this past offseason for a college gig, which he was there as well. Thomas Hill, fire everyone, GM included. Bring in Harbaugh or Peyton and give them total control. And that's the other part of this I don't think enough people realize. So for the people that are dreaming Sean Payton, and have at it, baby. The offseason, which we're about to be fully in and technically already in, the offseason's all about dreaming. So let's talk draft, let's talk this, let's talk that. If you bring in a Sean Payton, you bring in a Mr. Harbaugh from Michigan, they're going to want total control. You're right, Thomas, which means I don't know how big of a fan Joe Douglas is going to be about that. So you would probably have to move on because we all know the troubled Jets history with, pairing a GM that's already here with a new head coach and then being on different timelines. Because obviously, if you bring in a Sean Payton or Harbaugh, they've got a lot longer of a relation to Douglas. And since they're not on the same timeline, they're operating in different worlds. The GM's like, oh my goodness, my job's on the line next season. I have to do moves that help me immediately. And the Payton or Harbaugh, not to say that they don't want to win right now, but they're playing on a different timeline. So different decision-making will just make things more complicated. So that's another biggie as well, that either of those guys coming in probably means the end of Joe Douglas, which, take that for what we will. Yeah, Jimmy, all our coaches are kids, just so many of them young and inexperienced, and the ones that are in the mix don't make the offensive decision. So like John Benton, for instance, is the offensive line coach. He has a lot of NFL experience, but he's not making play calls. So, there is a little bit of a difference there. Yeet, what if we try and convince Rex to come back? Now, that would be a choice. I saw, who was that, Joe Beningo? He was the one advocating for that. So, yeah. I don't think so. I don't think the chances are very good. I mean, Rex would love to come back to the NFL, I'm sure, but I think he's really enjoying the ESPN gig. Let's go to Marcel here on our Facebook page. Saleh and Douglas are entirely too comfortable. Them thinking that they could just skate into next season with the exact same coaching staff is unacceptable. Yeah, if that's what they believe. Again, it seems that way on the floor, but I think Woody Johnson or somebody could go like, dude, you got to do something. There is no way in hell we can go right back in with the same thing. So someone's head's going to have to roll, and I don't want it to just be a random scapegoat. I want it to be a legitimate thing. So like Calabrese could be on the table. Mike LaFleur could be on the table. Again, we heard the whispers of John Benton. I mean, something has to happen. Let's see. Thomas Hill, 12 years without a playoff appearance, embarrassing franchise ownership. Yeah, this is the long, for those who don't know. So we all know it was the longest NFL active drought for no playoffs. And now that extends to 12 years. Like we all knew that. But here's something you may not know. It is now the longest such stretch in Jets franchise history. They have never had a stretch where they have missed the playoffs in 12 consecutive years. Let that marinate for a second. Let that simmer and make you angry or make you feel however you're going to feel about it. The Jets have never in their history had that. And that to me is troubling. I mean, yay. I mean, and just that fact alone, I know Saleh and Douglas have not been here for the entire 12 years, but what the hell? I mean, I want people to be angry about this. I don't want wow, we accomplished a lot of really good things this year. No, screw that. Like, we need answers. I think this fan base is looking for blood. I think there is a lust for blood, and there should be, because someone has to pay for this. This is unbelievable. How did they blow this? If they would have done the bare minimum. We talked about all these games they blew. Jacksonville, Detroit, Minnesota, the second Buffalo game, the Seattle game. I mean, all of these games that they had, if you just win one, Week 18 means something. But since you didn't, it means jack diddly. It means squat. Absolutely squat, which is a tough pill to swallow. Boy Green, keeping it real. Appreciate that. Yeah, I'm trying to just lay it out on the line here. Let's see. Go back to Greg Johnson here. Now for the Zach Wilson scapegoat. Nobody tutored him. He missed both preseason reps, early game practice. Then he gets thrown in, wins 5, inactive, starts inactive. Yeah, that's a big part of the Zach Wilson puzzle, that he has 22 career starts, but it's just jumbled all together with all kinds of injuries and everything in between, which makes it hard to evaluate. Now, we will have to see what happens from that standpoint. Who would be I think Zach Wilson's going to be on the team next year. I think he'll be either QB2 or QB3. I think the Jets are going to be very aggressive. They're going to kick the Derek Carr and the Jimmy Garoppolo and Lamar Jackson. All those cans are going to kick. We'll see what they come up with. And I think Zach Wilson will just be developed on the bench as a guy. How about Josh McCown for QB coach? That's possible, and I'm sure he'd be interested because he said he kind of wanted to climb the ladder. Obviously, he interviewed for the Houston Texans head coaching gig, but a natural progression would make sense. People have brought up McCown. People have brought up Chad Pennington. He doesn't have a lot of coaching experience. He's coached at the high school level, and that's it. But he is a guy that's been around that I think could provide some real leadership, some real know-how. Personally, I'd probably prefer someone who's actually done it. No offense to McCown, but a guy that's been like a quarterback coach for 20 years, like a Greg Napper or a Greg Knapp, nickname Napper. Like Greg Knapp was the perfect guy for the job, and unfortunately he tragically passed away. So a guy like that, that's just been around the game forever and can bring, some adulthood, some maturity to the room, not to offend the offensive staff of the Jets. But again, there's just too many people that just don't really know. So that would be my take. Jay Spector on YouTube. The whole development of Wilson is bogus. How do you develop a quarterback who can't see downfield, can't read a defense, doesn't ever anticipate a wide receiver getting open, at a minimum hit a 5-yard swing pass? I think there are arguments to be made on both sides, that the coaching staff has failed Zach Wilson and Zach Wilson has failed Zach Wilson. So I think there is truth on both sides. I don't think it's one or the other. I don't think it's just Zach Wilson sucks and the coaching staff went, well, he sucks. Like, there have been all kinds of coaching staffs that have been able to maximize the talent around them, have a player in their building that's really good, and when he leaves, he's not as good because they don't have that coaching. So I feel like there's enough talent around Zach Wilson. Obviously, he was the number 2 overall pick, to get something out of him, but they weren't able to coach it. Why? I don't know. And maybe we'll never know. I'm not sure. But no, obviously Zach Wilson didn't do himself a lot of favors either. Zach Attack, let's go to you. The coaching staff will be damned if they do and damned if they don't. At the end of the day, with this fan base, wins are what matters. Get us to the playoffs, they win the division, you will be king. 100%. Winning cures all ails, both in terms of drama in the locker room, the drama on social media, all of it. If you win, no one's going to care. But the winning obviously ran out here at the end of the year. So that's a concern as well. Let's keep going here with all your comments. This is great, guys. This is great on a Monday. Billy Ham, Saleh's a complete joke. The fact we started 6-3 to finish 7-10 most likely is ridiculous, embarrassing, not a culture change at all. Yeah, that again, that's tough to explain how you had that epic of a collapse. It's cool that you got to that point, but it's all about finishing in this league, not how you start. Jay Spector. Saleh will go down with the LaFleur ship. His play calling in the red zone has been brutal. 1 for 6 against the Vikings, 50% efficiency. They win by 2 touchdowns. That's a great way to put it. Yeah, and we will see. To me, I don't think Saleh does. Like, again, if ownership or GM Joe Douglas, we'll see, come up to Saleh and say, dude, you got to get rid of LaFleur. And if he says no, captain goes down with the ship, and like he goes down instead, I don't anticipate that. To me, if it's him or LaFleur, us as human beings are selfish. We will push anyone in front of a bus to save ourselves. That's 99% of the world. That's the harsh truth. Hey, they come to me and say, Paul, your intern messed up. It's you or the intern. Sorry, intern. You got to save yourself. Again, in the line of Scrooged, scrape them off, Claire. Scrape them off. Hey, it is what it is. It's cold the world out there. So, but you are right. The production has not been there. CM, wow, that's a take. It's hard to watch these bad quarterbacks play over Flacco. Flacco is better than all of them. CM, I may have to aggressively push back on that. I'm not. Again, it's been all bad, but I don't know if Flacco's the answer. I mean, he has the mobility of a parked car. I mean, it is just. I mean, he is slow as molasses. I mean, this guy is just dinosaur, prehistoric, the Mesozoic era. I'm talking dinosaur eras. Like, I mean, this dude is done. And he shows, like, no interest. If we're talking about lack of passion from Robert Saleh, what about lack of passion from Joe Flacco? I mean, he just looks like the most miserable person on the earth. So I think he is going to retire this offseason. And for good reason. He is just toast. For sure. Let's go to B Red Sport 18. The team cannot come out flat with meaningful games in December and January. Talk is cheap, plain and simple. The results are not there. Someone has to bite the bullet for this. And that's the thing. I'm going to be honest. We can play that clip. Yeah, let me pull up that clip. That's a very interesting clip. We'll play the first half of that one from Tyler Conklin after the game. It seems like a lot of people are roasting Tyler Conklin here, but I'm going to be honest. Tyler Conklin, veteran Jets tight end, and by the way, someone that's joined us on these very airwaves. I'm going to be honest. I thought his conversation was quite refreshing in terms of his brutal honesty, excuse me. So we're going to play the first half of that clip right here for you, and we'll get right into it on Tyler Conklin. Like I said, a lot of people were roasting Tyler for this, but I actually appreciated the honesty. Here is Janae Coakley and Tyler Conklin after the game. Here's Conklin on the, again, just some brutal honesty on the Jets.
Tyler, you've been a part of a lot of games. What was this game like for you guys? For you?
Yeah, with all the emotions right now, it's kind of hard to tell. You come into a game like this, it's basically a playoff game, right? This week, and if we win, next week would have been too. And it just didn't feel like a playoff game atmosphere on our side of the ball. We just, in my opinion, we were flat at times. I don't know why that is. That's not anybody specifically. It was just kind of the feeling I had on that sideline. We just seemed kind of flat. It's kind of the main thing that's kind of in my brain right now coming off the field.
When you talk about you guys came out flat and at times you were flat and you said you don't know what is, how do you try to avoid that and how do you get the team rallied up?
Yeah, the tough part about it was, I feel like to start the game we ran the ball better than we have in the past 2 weeks, that's for sure. We had some explosive plays. We got inside the 40. I think the easiest way to not be flat is when you get inside the 40, you got to score touchdowns. When you settle for field goals or get knocked out of field goal range after punt, that can be demoralizing. So I think, the game could be completely different. I mean, we won't know, but, if we get inside the 40 as much as we do and score some touchdowns or, get more into the red zone, but, who knows?
See, that's the part for me that's just demoralizing for me as a fan. What the hell? What do you mean? I mean, it was obvious that they were flat. I mean, there's no debate. But how? You had 10 days to prepare. You were coming off a short week. Thursday night football. And the football god said, here on a silver platter, here's all these teams losing to help you out. All you got to do is win. And the Jets had extra time to prepare, and they show up with an absolute goose egg. 60-yarder. They allowed a Kenneth Walker on the first play of the game. What the flying hoot? Whoa. I mean, there's no excuse to come out flat. Again, Tyler Conklin was brutally honest. He was truthful, which I appreciate. Too many players do this, this cat and mouse game with the media where they don't really say anything. I mean, Conklin just laid it out there. So it was somewhat refreshing and surprising that he was just so honest. Like, yeah, we were flat. But my question is, why? How? How were you possibly flat in a game of this magnitude? Unbelievable. Tough pill to swallow. Tough pill to swallow there from that perspective. I just can't believe they came out flat. Wow. MM Morris, there's good advice. You can't carry decades of baggage into a new relationship, which I think, quite frankly, definitely affected some of the Zach Wilson stuff, is because we've had so many quarterbacks stink and the development not be there that our patience has gotten thinner and thinner with every new quarterback that comes in, which, by the way, is why no thank you on all the no thank you on the people saying, hey, CJ Stroud, hell no. I don't want any part of a young quarterback. I am not interested. So I just want to make that very, very clear. There is absolutely no way I want any part of a quarterback, which, by the way, let's throw this up on the board. Let's talk draft. How could we possibly not, now that it's the season's officially over? Here it is. The Jets currently hold the number 13 overall pick in the first round of the 2023 NFL Draft. Now, I did some studying on Tankathon, and it appears the highest the Jets can possibly go if everything breaks their way is the number 10 overall pick, because it's based on strength of schedule. And here it is in its simplest form. The Jets have played an incredibly tough schedule this year, so they were expected to lose those games, and they did. The teams that have an easier schedule and they found ways to lose, they're like, wow. How the hell did you lose to these easy teams? That's worse. So the Jets lose those tiebreakers, long story short, in NFL draft conversation. So in basically any team they're going to tie with in terms of final record, they will fall to the bottom of the pile, and that's where they currently are with the number 13 overall pick. However, if the teams in front of them that all have 6 wins win and the Jets lose against the Dolphins, then all of a sudden the highest it looks like they can get realistically is the number 10 overall pick, and they would need everything to break their way for that to happen. So just to give you guys a full sense on draft, which is of course everywhere we want to go on January 2nd, 2023. So had to give you guys that. Eddie, I like the idea of McCown. Yeah, he's again a really good guy. I love the guy. He's great. Let's see, but it's not terrible. Playoff run to the 17th week. Zach was the second pick, win, and got to go. Yeah, I mean, again, to be in this conversation is great, but, again, standards change during a season. If you would have told me, 7 wins before the year, I'd be like, okay, I'd be interested in the circumstances, but that's really interesting. And obviously, they were, so expectations change all of a sudden when you're 6-3, for sure. Eddie Rodriguez, leave Saleh alone, force him to fire LaFleur and hire a real OC. Could be, and I would be interested to hear those options. I've heard Frank Reich and all these other. Marcus, I'm so sorry. Marcus Figueroa. You tell me about it. I have tickets to Jets-Dolphins game. What a waste. Oh, that's tough. And a lot of us have to make those decisions, obviously, well in advance. That's tough, man. Just try to enjoy it, I guess, or sell your tickets, I guess. But I'll be watching on Sunday. And I'm not going to be rooting for the Dolphins to win, but if the Dolphins happen to win, I'm like, well, I guess we get a better pick. So I would be rooting like normal. Wow, a lot of, whoa. You guys will only see my eyebrows as I read through this long passage. I'm a long-suffering Jets fan. I would tell you this team sucks. They've always sucked. Expected in the late 1960s, early 70s, but nothing since. They ruin every quarterback they draft. Their coaching's atrocious. The play calling is the worst in the history of football. Saleh's a Pop Warner coach. They suck on draft day. It's decades of misery and will never change. The team is destroyed. Ownership is ridiculous, and you shouldn't be allowed to own any team in any sport without. Wow, that was a book. and appreciate the passion that we're getting from Jet fans in here. This is nice. All right, a lot of LaFleur needs to go. Get rid of the owners again. I don't think Woody's selling at any time, for sure. So he said the owner is not going to fire himself. One more year, playoffs mandate, for sure. I think there is 100% a playoff mandate for next season. 100%. There has to be a playoff mandate. No doubt about it. It's playoffs or bust. I don't know if that will be public or not, like Woody Johnson's done in the past, but for sure. And then Morris, attracting anyone worthwhile after Thursday, good luck. I think they will be. Again, New York is attractive in a lot of ways, but we'll see. Cy Thompson, that's correct. Sean Payton's rights are owned by the Saints, so anyone would have to trade for him. He can't just sign. I wish the Jets got Doug Peterson as their head coach. CM on YouTube. Okay, very interesting. Let's raise ticket prices. By the way, I did see the Jets did that, so I'm sorry to all you season ticket holders out there. That's tough. I'm trying to catch up on your comments. Jay Spector, look what Dable did for Allen and Jones, Peterson for Lawrence, Saleh better than Gase, but needed a seasoned OC. Yeah, again, part of the attraction of Saleh in the first place was that pairing with Mike LaFleur, like, oh, okay. Because it was either going to be Mike LaFleur or Mike McDaniel, who he brought in, and there was always the fear that they could then leave after that. So that was the debate with whether or not to get an offensive-minded head coach, because if you got the offensive-minded head coach, he would never leave. So if you have a defensive-minded head coach, he has a great offensive coordinator. Like, if the offensive coordinator is so good he leaves, then you have no one to replace him with. Although I would love that problem because that would mean that he played so well that you needed a new offensive coordinator in the first place. Wild wave, bro. Joe Douglas will fire Saleh if he goes down with Michael LaFleur. He absolutely, or Woody Johnson in that case, probably would. I don't think Joe Douglas has the power to straight up fire like that. He probably does, I guess. But yeah, if they say, hey, it's Michael LaFleur, you're gone. He's like, all right, I guess I'm gone. They're like, pack your bags, pal. Like, that's not for anything. I think that's for real. Prairie Tom Outdoors. Saleh is awfully loyal. His players and coaches come first before the Jets organization or the fans. Again, until a firing is on the line, where it would be Saleh or him, everyone, it's all self-preservation. Gia, we should trade a second rounder for Tua. What the? His career may be over. I mean, we'll see with the concussion stuff. That's very very possible. Let's go to Jimmy Jets. Here's a hot take. Bring in Brady. He just brought Tampa Bay back to the Super Bowl. The NFC South went dead. Yeah, I will say I'm open to Tom Brady. I know a lot of Jet fans aren't. I mean, it would be weird, and obviously he's not getting number 12, but I'd be open to Tom Brady for sure. Bring in. We need a quarterback for sure. Let's see. I canceled my season tickets 3 years ago. I would not support those owners, giving fans nothing, especially the ones who have been there since the beginning. He ain't selling the team, so I ain't going. That's fair if no one wants to. I will say the things that I like from Woody is that he has been willing to spend, so the money has been thrown around. There's been success in his tenure, whether you go to the 2002 AFC East champions, the last champions to do so, 2006 making the playoffs, 2008 Brett Favre year, the back-to-back AFC championship games in 09 and 10, and 2015. So there's been runs of success, whether short or long, with Woody Johnson's ownership. So that's for something. Sam Darnold's better than Zach Wilson. There is he did have some money throws yesterday. That's for sure. DJ Darnold killing it, Gino killing it. This is being a Jets fan. Yeah, Saleh actually had a good bite about that. I'll probably share that clip on Twitter after, about former Jets having success elsewhere and why being patient is prudent. So that's kind of interesting. No rookie quarterback. Again, I'm completely on that train. Give me a veteran. Can we draft an offensive coordinator and a quarterback development coach? We can't draft one, but we could sign one. We have plenty of money for that. Let's see. Lucretia Loretta here. We should draft Paris Johnson Jr. Yeah, I misread it earlier. I thought that he announced he's going back to Ohio State, but it sounds like he was talking about the college football playoff. So I believe Paris Johnson should be in the NFL draft, and I'm all for offensive linemen for sure. I'd trade down. That's possible. It'd be nice if there was a quarterback gem. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to that, potentially a dart throw in the mid rounds if that's there. And that not being the option, but just kind of a dart throw. I'm all for that. I think it was Holmgren who said draft a quarterback every year until you find one. I'm not opposed to that. Let's see. We got to be due for the playoffs. God, I hope so. It's been too long. Jay Spector, why do we draft Ruckert? Needed linebacker and safety help. Why do we draft the tight end who didn't see the field all year after signing Uzama and Conklin? That's a fair question. I mean, $45 million was invested in Uzama and Conklin. They still drafted Jeremy Ruckert. Again, they called it the BPA, and Ruckert was what they thought the best tight end in the draft. They got him in the third round. We'll have to see. We didn't see anything this year from Ruckert. But yeah, there is a case to be made that there was obvious positions of need. Again, offensive line, linebacker, safety, a lot of positions you could have looked at before they went to Jeremy Ruckert, but they believed in the board. So take that for what you will, if that ends up coming. Let's go to Travis. He's on the hot seat. Sean Payton or Mike Tomlin. I would like either. Both are proven, but I think they stick with Saleh. Let's see. Back to John Campbell here. A couple of breaks here and there. The roughing the passer penalty in first Pats game, offsides, holding penalty away. Although 5 in a row, hard to say playoffs. Yeah, you're right. The pick 6 changed the season for the Jets, who would have been 6-2 at the time. And then I can't remember if that was week 6 or week 7 or week 8. I can't remember the weeks. I don't have it in front of me. Actually, I do have it in front of me. Let me see. So we had that was after week 7. So that was week 8 was the first time they played them. So the Jets had won 4 in a row heading into that game. That would have been 5 in a row, and they beat Buffalo, which would have been 6 in a row. So, and then you head into the other New England game and see what happened. So yeah, they were right there, but ultimately they didn't do it. So let's see. I've heard a lot of this. So Saleh had the comment yesterday, the light at the end of the tunnel. This has to be the longest tunnel. Or as some Jet fans said, that's because a train's coming. That is the light that you're seeing. It is a very long tunnel. 12 years of running now, which is tough. Robert S. Everyone was saying Daniel Jones was a bust. Comes in new coaching staff. He looks like a Pro Bowler. Again, I think, somewhat, I don't think Saleh used those exact words, but he used Daniel Jones as an example of like, hey, like everyone wrote this guy off, and then all of a sudden in year 4 he was great. Again, I would say that the coaching staff changing played a part in that. Maybe that inspires Saleh to do the same thing. So maybe Zach Wilson does have this late career surge. We have not seen a lot of examples of it in NFL history, but that's possible. Let's see. Let's get LaFleur out. James Johnson on YouTube. What kind of coach calls 2 pass plays in a row on the goal line? How does an offensive coach fail to convert on multiple drives in a row? Yeah, it's brutal. It is definitely brutal. I don't like that at all. About billions. Brady would get killed with this offensive line. Well, I think the offensive line is there's going to be some dramatic improvements. I think you're going to get AVT back, so you have that. Laken Tomlinson's going to be back. He did not play well this year, obviously. And that one's one of the strange ones. I'll be honest. A guy that comes from the same system. The coaches know him. Everything. Like, he didn't have to switch positions. AVT switched positions to allow him to be at his spot. So that's one of the wildest ones in terms of, like, regret. Like, the Jets paid good money. And for that to be the case is really crazy, for sure. So, but I think they are going to fix it. Now, there's a lot of work to be done. You have to actually go out and do it. It's easy to say. You have to go out and do it. Elliott, is Tannehill an option at quarterback? Yeah, I've got a lot of people I know out there in Tennessee. He's owed, I believe it's $27 million non-guaranteed, so he could be a trade piece, could be had from what I heard from Titans people for like a 3rd or 4th round pick. Again, what the Jets need to do is, as I said, we'll be doing this on my YouTube channel, so guys, make sure you subscribe to the channel. We'll be doing a 2023 quarterback carousel playlist where I'm going to be talking to all kinds of experts from around the league with different teams, and we're going to vet the possibility. The Titans and Ryan Tannehill, the Raiders and Derek Carr, and we're going to go through all of these options and vet whether or not it's a good fit with the New York Jets, and allow you guys, the viewers and the commenters, to say, oh, wow, after hearing that case, I'm all aboard of Derek Carr. After hearing that, Derek Carr sucks. I don't want Derek Carr. Whatever it is. And I've talked to a few Titans people, and they believe that they would trade Ryan Tannehill for about a 3rd round pick, somewhere around the Matt Ryan, Carson Wentz package. So Yes, he is an option. He's someone to consider, but you have to swing because whoever you pick, you're stuck with. So like Tannehill, you're stuck with. You're not getting Tannehill and then someone else really good. So it's either going to be Tannehill, Carr, Jimmy G, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, whoever it is. So you have to be very selective, but make sure that you swing the bat hard there. Let's see. Draft needs for Cy Thompson. Offensive tackle, center, inside linebacker, or safety. Yeah, all of those are needs. I would say and instead of or. Yeah, offensive tackle for sure. Center would be. Inside linebacker, safety. I probably even want some more edge rush because we didn't really have a dominant guy. Like Carl Lawson, fine. John Franklin-Myers, fine. Like you need more pass rush too. So I would throw that once again there as well. Is Derek Carr and Devontae Adams a package deal? We wrote an article about this on Heavy on Jets from a trade proposal idea, and it kind of sounds like it is. I mean, the reason why Devontae Adams went to the Raiders in the first place was because of Derek Carr. And if Derek Carr's gone, I'd imagine Devontae Adams could be gone as well. Again, we're talking about a $261 million trade package. I mean, that's a lot of money you got to move around. You guys can check it out, Heavy on Jets. Look down our article feed. You'll find the $261 million package. That's the article where we explore and kind of talk about this deal. So it'd be a lot of money to move, and the Jets don't have normal money as they normally do. But you can move on from Corey Davis. You can move on from Carl Lawson. You can move some C.J. Mosley money around. So you could create some money to make something happen. And if that, Devontae Adams, Garrett Wilson, Derek Carr, okay, yeah. You can sell me on that, baby. Joe Christian, there is something to be said for that. Let's see. We got the Jet Fighter 666. Grab Carr. Keep Stravos number 2. Zach is the emergency QB. Clean up the mess. Let Zach learn for 2 years. We don't need another ex-Jet beating us. Yeah, that would be nice just to, not allow that to happen again. So that's very interesting. Scooby-Doo jumping in. How large is a Jet excuse Rolodex? Quite large. Injuries and this and that. It is quite large. Let's go to Jay Spector. Root for Dolphins to smack Jets. A Jets win and a Patriots prayer win puts them in the playoffs. No, if the Patriots win, they control their own destiny. So the Patriots win, they're in. So, again, I would rather, separating my own wanting to win any game, I'd much rather see the Dolphins in the playoffs than the Patriots. I hate the Patriots. The Patriots suck. I hate the Patriots. So I hope the Bills annihilate the Patriots, to be candid. To be honest, I do. Travis, after the next season, we should go get Tomlin or Payton. Well, Payton's going to be decided this year. So if you don't grab him now, you don't get him. Tomlin, maybe we'll see, but it sounds like he's there in Pittsburgh. I see that's what you meant there, Travis. But yeah, again, Sean Payton's going to make a decision this year. Then he won't be available next year. That would be my take on that. Let's go to Robert. Can't change coaches every 2 years. Come on now. Yeah, I'm not advocating to remove Robert Saleh. I think there has to be at a certain point continuity, and there's been some signs from Saleh. He hasn't been Adam Gase. Adam Gase after 2 years, we all knew. We got to move on from this guy. I don't think he could do that with Saleh, to your point. You can't just change it every 2 years and expect something to finally hit. So I think they're committing to Saleh. Saleh's the guy. Now, you may have to make other changes, but I think Saleh's your guy. I would not move on from Saleh. Despite the Sean Payton stuff, that's sexy. I would not do it. John Campbell, what about Aaron Rodgers? We will talk to a Green Bay Packers person, but from what I understand, he could be moved. And if he's moved, he's near the top of my list. He is a 2-time NFL MVP back-to-back heading into this year. I still think he's got a lot of stuff, for sure. B-Red Sport 18. Remember when Saleh said we're going to see Buffalo again? Receipt. Maybe he meant, in the playoffs on the couch. Definitely not this year. That's for sure. Isaac Lee. Light at the end of the tunnel is a Metallica lyric, and Dan Campbell said it first on Hard Knocks. I think he said the light at the end of the tunnel is a train, and I think he talked about that. But I think light at the end of the tunnel, while, yes, a Metallica lyric, I think also it's just a common saying. People have been saying light at the end of the tunnel for hundreds of years, but either way. Let's see. Lou, a very real question. How do you fire LaFleur who's in your wedding party? That's what I'm saying. He is so close to the sun that LaFleur would have to do something so egregious to get fired that, I don't think he gets fired. I don't know. Maybe he does. Again, maybe there's pressure. Maybe Woody says, dude, you better freaking fire LaFleur or I am. And he just supersedes him. But in all honesty, with the familial connections, how after 2 years we say, you're gone? Like, again, the results aren't great, obviously. But, man, I'm with you, Lou. I don't think he fires him because of those reasons. Now, I think Mike LaFleur hasn't been horrible. Like, he's been bad. I mean, there's a lot of bad. I just ran through the offense earlier in the show. Like, there's been some bad where he hasn't scored a touchdown in 2 weeks. 2 weeks. He scored 6 and 3 points the last 2 weeks. Unacceptable in the middle of a playoff run. And maybe that's just enough to get him fired right there. I don't know. But I think it's going to be very hard for Saleh to move on, to be honest. For sure. So there is a friendship there that could cost him. Dave Nichols. I also want to establish this because there's a lot of people that are misled, and I just want to make this clear. Dave Nichols, you say Carr sucks, that's why they benched him. We can move on from him too. Mr. Nichols, the reason they benched Carr is not because of his play. Sure, he did lead the league in interceptions. It's because they didn't want to guarantee him another dollar. If he got hurt, they would owe him a lot of money next year. And that would kind of jeopardize their opportunity to trade him. Now, they may just cut him. He has a full no trade clause. But I just want to clarify that for all the people out there that keep saying, why would the Jets trade for a bench guy? They benched him because of contract, not because of play. I just want to make that perfectly clear to all the people in our audience. Now, you can not like Derek Carr for a lot of reasons, but the benching should not be one of them. Just to throw that out into the ethos. Let's go to Brock. Get a frickin' OC who has experience developing young quarterbacks. Yeah, I would be all for that. Yes, I would be. I would be for that. Dave Nichols. We need to fix the offensive line. Get an OC that can help Zach since he's the plan again next year. I do not believe he is plan A. He will be in the room, but I don't think he's plan A. Oh, that's a good line, Lou. Money talks and BS takes the bus. That's a good one. Shane Steichen. I've heard some people mention Shane Steichen. He is an option. Sure. Steichen is the answer. He's the quarterback whisperer if you move on from Saleh. But I want an experienced OC. Yeah, Steichen's interesting. Yeah, I was just about to say I don't think he comes over as an OC, but that's fine. Uncle D, I'm finally done with the Jets. I don't know if this was the line. I mean, there's been a lot of bad. If you want to pick any of those, this one seems like a weird one to finally say, I'm done. Because, again, there is a nice young core here, and it looks promising for that. Let's go. How are the chances for Jimmy G with Saleh 49ers ties? The 1977 T-Man, which is super specific, I would say their chances are great, quite frankly, if they want Jimmy G. He is guaranteed to be a free agent. He renegotiated his deal with San Francisco before the year and said, hey, I'll come back for you guys, but you can't franchise tag me, and I'm guaranteed to be a free agent. They said, okay. And obviously he balled out before getting hurt. So the surgical repaired foot is an issue, and the durability in itself is an issue that the Jets would have to work through. But in terms of their chances to talk to him, Jimmy Garoppolo is going to meet with the Jets. That is 100%. The only way that doesn't happen is if they trade for Derek Carr, a month before the new league year kicks off and they make their quarterback decision. That'd be the only way they don't. So the chances are fantastic. If they want him, he'll be in the room. And they can give him that offer that he can't refuse. So that's possible. But he's guaranteed to be a free agent. Of all the options we talk about, like Aaron Rodgers, Derek Carr, Jimmy G is the only one that is guaranteed to be a free agent. And the Jets, by virtue, would have an opportunity to talk to him. Uncle D, anyone betting Cincinnati tonight? I am. I think the Bengals are going to win. But I think it will be a good game. We'll see. A lot of number one seed implications, of course. I just saw this one before I skip it. If we get rid of LaFleur, who would you want as OC? The name on top of my mind, although I want to do some more research and talk to some more NFL people, is Frank Reich. He's a guy that I think could use a year or two to kind of rebuild himself before jumping back into the head coaching waters. Maybe he gets a head coaching job this offseason, but I think he may rebuild himself as an OC, which is where he cut his teeth, or a QB guy. As a former QB, he'd be a guy I'd be very interested in as a proven guy who's been there, done that. Obviously, look at his success with the Eagles in their Super Bowl year. So I would be interested. Let's see. Go after Aaron Rodgers. Again, I'm all for that. boycott Activision. How are we talking about a new OC with all the injuries and quarterback changes the team had to go through? Boycott, at a certain point, though, you got to, overcome. Every day in life we have circumstances that aren't great, but I just tell my boss, hey, sorry, this thing and this thing came up. He's like, I don't care, man. It's results. So at a certain point, you got to look past that. There were an unbelievable amount of injuries to the offensive line and all their weapons, but you got to overcome it, man. You got to overcome it. Let's go to Dane. I don't think somebody like Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady would ever want to come to this dysfunction. They both know better than to do something like that. I think, again, as Aaron Rodgers said on the Pat McAfee show earlier this year, this is not, quote unquote, the same old Jets. I think the coaching connections would help, and all the talent is obvious. Look at the Pro Bowlers on this team, all over the place, and future All Pros, which we'll see when that comes out. This is not the same old Jets. They have a lot of talent, so I think it will be more attractive than you're laying out, Dane. Brock, do you still believe in Zach as I do? We all know he has a talent. Can we develop him with the new OC? I will be honest. Him as the starting quarterback in 2023, I have given up on personally. I think the Jets are going to pursue a veteran, and he will be the guy. In terms of giving up on him overall, no, I still like the talent. But in terms of him being the unquestioned QB starter for 2023, I am fully off that boat. And he's not to blame but himself for that. But I do hope we do bring in someone like a Frank Reich that can hopefully rebuild him and make him the guy he once was. Fans of the Green Bay Packers. Well, hello. Thanks for stopping by, I guess. Let's see. Let's try to go through some final couple in here. Jimmy G is made out of a brown paper bag. A lot of injuries there. Good Lord, Edward Anderson Jr. I could see Sauce and Garrett leaving us if we keep losing. They're in their rookie season, for Pete's sake. A YouTube super chat. Keith Murphy. Trust me, y'all don't want Jimmy G signed a 49ers fan. Okay, we get all kinds of flavors in here. Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I don't want him because of the durability concerns. He's had one fully healthy year. That was 2019 in his long career. That scares me, to be honest. But he will be, I'm sure, on the top of the Jets platter. They know him better than anybody. Let's go to Jeff here on Facebook. Do you think the current tight end situation is good enough to compete? I do. I just think they got to use him better. I really like Tyler Conklin. I think CJ Uzomah, who had a couple of drops in the Seattle game, but overall, I think he could be used better too. So yes, I think it's good enough. Yes, plainly. I don't think that's the major issue I'm looking at this offseason. Let's see. Let me see if I could get any final comments in here. CW Adams, Derek Carr to the Jets for a third, and Elijah Moore. I don't know if I want to give up on Elijah Moore. I think he's incredibly talented. To be honest, I don't think I'm ready for that. So I would say no on that one. Let's see. Saleh and Ulbrich, these are just coming in. Throw this one up. Saleh and Ulbrich are defensive minded, get an experienced OC. I am fine with that. That is absolutely on the table. Okay, I think Brock, yes. We actually had that in our mailbag this morning about Calabrese potentially being the scapegoat. He could be that guy, and then you bring in an experienced quarterback coach. That would again, if you want to save LaFleur and Saleh in your scenario, Brock, I would say yes. That would, depending on who the QB coach was, because again, everyone wants to fire people, but what are the answers to the firings? That's always an important follow-up. So I'm fine if they do that, but who the QB coach better be Jesus. I mean, it better be a guy that knows what the hell he's doing and a proven track record. But I would be open to that, yes. All right, everybody. One more coming in here, I see. A couple more. Okay, let's go through a couple of quickies here. Jeff, any hope or plan for Becton in our future? Yeah, here's what's going to happen. Mekhi Becton's fifth-year option is due in May. I imagine that's going to be declined, which means 2023 will be his contract year. It's going to be do or die. I think the Jets are going to roll him out, and he'll compete at whatever position. It'll be interesting whether left tackle or right tackle. It depends on what they do in free agency. But he's going to compete at one of those spots. Now, with the Jets' luck, what will probably happen is he's going to be fully healthy this year and dominate, and then he's going to be due a contract. Did the Jets franchise tag him? Did they give him a long-term deal with the injury history? That's going to raise some interesting questions. So, yes, I think he's on the roster next year, but I believe the Jets declined his fifth-year option in May, making 2023 the final year of his rookie contract. Scooby-Doo. Is Corey Davis a waste of space? Seems to not be able to get open on tight coverage, and he drops too many passes. Yes. The Jets can move on from him this offseason, save $9+ million against the cap. I believe he is gone, and he is going to get cut. Nobody's business. Brock Guthrie, Kurt Warner for QB coach. I've heard a few people bring this up. I'm sure Kurt Warner is open to it. I think he'd love to get back into a coaching room. I would have to dive in deeper to see if there's any connections between Kurt Warner and this current staff outside of Saleh randomly bringing up at a couple of press conferences. That would make it more likely because the coaching thing is a brotherhood. They normally like people staying in their own brotherhood. They normally don't go outside their walls like, I don't really know Kurt Warner, but I'll hire him. Like, that normally doesn't happen, but that's possible. And Richard saying at 500 pounds, they will roll him out. Do-do-da on Mekhi Becton. Very nice. Hopefully he is healthy, though, for all our sakes. Well, everybody, thanks for tuning in for a Monday live stream. We'll be having a lot of wonderful guests this week, setting up for our final Week 18 contest. And then we have a full offseason to get ready for. Black Monday, we'll see if any Jets coaches are fired, of course. We'll talk about the draft. Mock Draft Mondays will be coming back here soon. We'll talk about quarterback carousel. Who will be the next quarterback of the New York Jets? Your game show with your handsome host, Paul Eston Jr. That's sad. Anywho, thanks for tuning in, everybody. Make sure you do two things for me. First off, like the video, hit subscribe down below, and feel free. Again, if you want to make sure you never miss a video, go over to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/boygreen25. Make sure you hit subscribe and hit the bell notification. You'll never miss a video. We always try to cross-stream these videos as they are live right now on the Heavy on Jets page, but not every video I do can make it on the page. So if you never want to miss a video, YouTube, baby. It's youtube.com/boygreen25. It's on the scrolling ticker down below so you guys can get live streams, recorded videos, and all kinds of other fun stuff. So, guys, make sure you do that as well. Again, the free way to contribute is liking the video and hitting subscribe. That's something each and every one of you can do. Thanks for tuning in on a Monday, everybody. We'll set you up for Jets Dolphins week throughout the program. Thanks for tuning in, and much more to come right here on the Heavy on Jets channel and, of course, my YouTube channel. Thanks, everybody.